Good morning, everybody. My name's Rory Holiday. I'm the physiotherapist. Today we're going to do some Pilates. It's a beautiful day outside. It's nice and quiet. The birds are singing. What more can you want for a bit of Pilates and relaxation? We're going to be doing 3 exercises today. We're going to focus in on 3 anyway in particular, and we're going to start with quite basic through to an intermediate level. So start basic and work through those stages as you can. You don't have to go all the way through to those top levels, and I'm going to be giving you some key points to look out for to tell you whether you're doing these exercises right or not. When you recognise that you're starting to reach your limits, that's where I want you to hover and work in that level. Okay, great. We're going to start off in standing, just to have a little bit of a warm-up before we get into these exercises. So, as always, we're going to start finding a good standing posture. So I want you to start with the crown of the head. Imagine that big helium balloon attached to the crown of the head, pulling you tall. Chin tucks in toward your throat a little bit, and then the shoulder blades are going to gently drop down and back behind you. From there, keeping those collarbones nice and wide, we're going to move on to the pelvis. We do a few of those pelvic tilts. If you've done my videos before, you'll have done these a few times already. And we're going to look for that neutral lumbar spine, that halfway position. So we tilt that pelvis forwards, bring it backwards, find that halfway point. If you're struggling with that idea, imagine that the pelvis is a big bucket of water. You're tipping water out the front, you're tipping it out the back of a bucket. You find the halfway point where the water's nice and level. That's where we're going to keep it. From there, we're going to find an equal weight spread through the feet. So you're going to allow your weight just to spread forwards to see what that feels like, keeping all of those other points in place. And then we're going to come back onto the heels, see what that feels like. Don't go too far. Gently forwards and backwards a couple of times, and then find that halfway point where we've got equal weight spread of weight through the ball of the foot and the heel, keeping that spread throughout. Okay, from there, we're going to allow the hips, knees and ankles to bend and concertina. We're not bending the back. We're not leaning forwards. We're just going up and down. It's almost like you're just trying to make yourself a little bit shorter without having to change the upper body. Okay, keeping that in position, we're going to repeat a few repetitions of that, making sure that as those knees bend, they don't want to hug each other and come together. We keep that nice gap, letting the knees follow the line of the feet. Excellent, keep that going. I'm going to do a couple more repetitions, not going too low. And on this next repetition, stay down there. Bring the weight forwards onto the balls of the feet and lift the heels, but keep the knees bent. Now straighten those knees out, keeping the heels off the floor, and then lower those heels down. So this is called foot series. We're going to bend the knees, bring the weight forwards to lift the heels off the floor, straighten those knees up, slowly down. Let's do that again, watching the knees as they bend down. Go forward, keep the knees bent as we lift the heels, straighten up and down. Can we reverse that cycle? So lift those heels nice and high, keep the heels up, bend the knees and the hips as you do that. Now drop the heels, straighten the knees. Lift the heels, bend the knees, gently down the heels, soften back into a straight knee position. Excellent. We're going to move into the hips a little bit more now. We're going to get the hips rotating. We're going to pop hands on the front of the thighs. Still got the chin nice and tucked in. Shoulder blades gently set down and back. Neutral pelvis again. Find that neutral pelvis. And we're going to start with this leg. We're going to roll that foot outwards and then roll it gently inwards. And as you roll that foot inwards, let that sole of the foot kiss the floor and then gently lift away, pivoting onto the outside border of the foot. And as you do this, this hand should feel that the thigh is rotating. That's where you're getting the movement from, the hip joint. The foot's just coming along for the ride, but let that foot relax and feel the floor. Gentle contact to the arch of the foot into the floor. And if you can, with each repetition, see if you can allow it to go a little bit further. Can that foot roll in back a little bit more without being forced, just relaxing into that position. One more repetition there, back to the middle, opposite side, out onto the outside border of the foot, roll that in nice and gently. Let that sole of the foot just caress the floor as it comes inwards, trying to flatten that arch just a little. We're not forcing it flat, we're just letting it relax into that position. We're going to do a couple more repetitions there, and then we're going to work our way down onto the mat. Okay, great. Now I want you to go to the end of your mat, facing towards where your head is going to be. I'm going to do a roll down. The sun's bright here. We're going to roll the chin into the chest. letting the shoulder blades roll down and forwards, and the spine bends between the shoulder blades. As the spine starts to bend between the shoulder blades, you can let the next few vertebrae start to get involved. Hands are lowering down, and as the lower back begins to bend, we're going to allow those hips to bend so we can stick that tailbone up towards the ceiling, letting those hands get a little bit further down as those hamstrings get a nice stretch. Go down as far as you feel comfortable. Then we're going to return to standing, tucking that tailbone back under, gently stacking one vertebra at a time back on top of the one below until we're fully upright. Repeating that movement. It's almost like you're undoing a zip down your spine. The chin goes in, the shoulder blades go forwards, rolling one forwards on top of the other, pushing that tailbone up. And this time, when you get down as far as you can, let those knees bend, hands onto the floor, knees onto the floor. Walk yourself out, and we're going to stay on our front for this first exercise. Now, we're going to need a folded towel for your forehead. I'm going to be turning my head to the side so you can see and hear me. I want you to have your forehead on your folded towel. We're going to flatten ourselves slowly into the floor. Forehead supported. Your hands are going to be going under the front of your hips. And I want you to be able to get onto those bony points at the front of the hips. They're going to tell you about the exercise. They're going to tell you how well you were performing the exercise. So with forehead down, shoulder blades gently down and back behind you, we're going to find that neutral lumbar spine position. So we're going to do a few of those tilts. Tailbone down between the legs, tailbone up towards the ceiling, find that halfway position. Try and maintain that. Now the first movement we're going to do is a lift of the leg. This is an exercise called swimming, and we're going to be lifting one leg, but the idea is to lift the leg and reach it for the wall behind you. And as you reach, we try not to let the pelvis drop onto the hand underneath the pelvis. So you will feel that as you lift one hand, if you lift too high, the pelvis drops down into the hand. You're trying to find the point to which you can control that and go no further. If you start to feel the pelvis drop into the hand, you know you're going a little bit too far. So keeping that head down, shoulder blades set down, gentle reach, knee stays straight, and we're going to alternate sides. Breathing throughout this movement. We're going to breathe out as we reach away, breathing in as you come back down. If you need a moment just to get that in place, have a breath in, breathing out as you reach away, breathing in as you come back down. Breathing out as you reach away, breathing in as you come back down. Try and keep that cycle of breathing going with the movement. Don't worry if it gets mixed up, so long as you're breathing. And then put your focus back into the pelvis. Are you keeping that pelvis nice and still? Are you maintaining that neutral lumbar spine? We don't want that spine to dip too deep, which is what often happens when we lift too high with the leg. So be careful. More of a reach with the leg than it is a lift. We're going to do one more on each side. And I'm going to make it a little bit harder. Okay, now you've got to learn, you've got to hopefully remember what the pelvis is doing and when it begins to move, because we're going to take the hands away from there. So hopefully you've learned a little bit about what your pelvis can and can't do there. The arms, shoulders allowing, are going to come up ahead of us. If the shoulders don't really want to go there, then bring the arms back down by your side, and we can do the same movement, just lifting the arms by your side. But we're going to be lifting opposite arm and leg. Okay. So as I lift my arm and leg so that you can see me, I'll come a bit closer. I'm going to lift left arm, right leg. And I say lift, what I really mean is it's that reach again. So we're reaching for the wall ahead of me, wall behind me, gently back down. Opposite arm and leg, reaching away. Once again, we're going for that breathing cycle. Breathing in, breathing out as we reach away, breathing in as we lower down. Breathing out as we reach away, breathing in as we come back down. Try and keep your neck long. Resist the urge to hunch your shoulders towards your ears. You can still keep a little bit of length in the neck. Shoulder blades set down your back, even with the arms up ahead of you. And like I was saying before, if the shoulders don't like this one too much, arms by your side. We can still do opposite arm and leg with a little bit of a lift of the arm by your side. Okay, keeping that neutral lumbar spine and remembering how that pelvis was moving in the previous level, trying to avoid that rock and roll of the pelvis.
so everything stays nice and still. I'm going to do one more on each side. We're going to have a little rest there. Now we're going to come out of this position. We're going to put hands by our shoulders, gently press up, and we can have a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a child's pose type stretch, rolling the bum back towards your heels just to take it out of the position it's been in for the last few minutes, and then we're gently going to return back to a 4-point position. So, move that towel out of the way. We're now going to go for the next level of the swimming exercise. We're going to be finding the correct position in 4 points. We want the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees at a right angle, and ideally toes pointing away so you're resting on the top of the feet. If your feet get a bit crampy in this position, just tuck those toes back under. I'm going to keep my chest lifted and my chin gently tucked up in toward my throat. And from there we can again do a few pelvic tilts to find that neutral lumbar spine position. Once you've got that in place, we're going to go to lift the arm. We're going to go with one arm at a time, of course, so it'll be tough to do both. And then just try the other side out, see how that feels in comparison. You may have done this one with me before. We're trying to keep that spine absolutely still. It's a good thing to just imagine you've got a big tray of drinks on your back as you do this movement. Try not to shake or spill any of those glasses of water. Keep it nice and still all the time. Now we're going to bring into this the legs. Okay, so we're going to keep the arms going, but we're going to move the opposite leg. So I'm going to reach an arm away, opposite leg goes at the same time. Don't get hung up on trying to get too high with the legs. That tends to cause the spine to dip in. You can keep it low if you need to, so long as you feel like you're reaching and straightening out. Gently bring that back in, and then go again on the opposite. Reaching away, gently bringing that back in. Trying to return the hands and knees to the same spot that they came from. They have a tendency to wander towards one another, so your base of support gets a little bit too narrow if you're not careful. Reappraising that position, chin tucked in, neutral lumbar spine, tray of drinks in place, and we're breathing. Breathing out as we reach away, breathing in as we come back in. If you're finding that too difficult and you're a little bit shaky, return to just doing the arm movements or just do the leg movements. That's absolutely fine. If you isolate it to arm or leg, you've got a little bit more thinking space to then concentrate on keeping everything else in control. So it's a good idea to keep things easy to begin with before you make it harder. Okay, one more on each side. Lovely. Okay, and again we're going to have a little bit of a stretch, gently down into our child's pose, head down into the floor. If the shoulders allow, big deep breath in, gently breathe out and let it all go. Okay, we're going to move into another exercise now called side bend. We're going to start out with a basic level. Level 1, we're going to start with the knees bent to a right angle. I'm resting on my forearm, elbow is under my shoulder, my feet, hips and shoulders are in a straight line here, but my knees at a right angle are out in front of me. I'm going to keep my waist lifted. It wants to sag down. Lift it up. Keep it there. Keep it in that position. And we can also just think about that pelvis, that neutral lumbar spine. Tilt the pelvis forwards, tilt it backwards, find that halfway position. Now we can keep the hand on the hip here. It requires a bit more balance. If you absolutely need to, fingertips can go onto the floor here. And we're going to lift the pelvis up and forwards as we go. So we've got a nice straight line now from the knees through the hips to the shoulder. And as we go back, down, we take the hips backwards and downwards, keeping that waist lifted. Hands stay on the hip, up and forwards, down and back. Up and forwards, down and back. Excellent. Keep that going. Breathing out as you come up, breathing in as you come back down. If your shoulders don't like this movement, I've got a little variation for you. You need your head support back in place. We have the arm out ahead, and we're going to have the head supported on the arm. And then all we're going to do from that position is the clamp, and we can open the knees without rolling this pelvis backwards. So the hand stays on the hip for this one. Okay, a couple more repetitions, whether you're continuing with the clamp or whether you're continuing with the side bend. Gently down and back with the hips. Gently up and forwards. Gently down and back. Okay, good. Okay, and then have a little rest there. Okay, now I've got a little progression for you on this one. It's a little bit of a variation once you're up into that position. Let me bring my mat back a little bit. You might be able to see me a little bit better that way. Okay, so we're going to go for the same side bend, but we're going to hold that position. Okay, and then what we're going to do is bring that top leg off the bottom leg. You can just hold that there and hover. If you can, bring the knee up towards your chest and then straighten it out in line with the rest of the body. So it's not up here, down here. Bring that knee up, straighten out. And here we're maintaining that hip and waist nice and high as you continue the movement. Breathing out as you point away. Breathing in as you come back up. Breathing out as you point away. Breathing in as you come back up. And that hand can stay on the hip if it really wants to. Excellent. Couple more reps if you can hold that one. And then we're going to flip to the other side. Okay, last repetition. Knees go back together, rest down. Okay, we're going to go over to the other side. Again, starting on that elbow. Remember, if you don't like this on the shoulder, the alternative is the clam. We're going to keep that gap under the waist, hand on the hip. You can open the knees. From there, try not to roll the body backwards as you open the knee. Okay, if you're able to, come up onto that elbow, lift that waist. Feet are together, knees are together. We're going to be lifting the hips up and forwards, down and back. Up and forwards, down and back. And as I go down and back, I'm still keeping that waist up. So I don't let myself collapse. Something I didn't add in the last, when we're doing the other side, is that the neck stays in line with the rest of the body. Sometimes the head drops, sometimes you lift it up, particularly if you're trying to watch a screen. So try and keep that head and neck in line with the rest of the body. Breathing out as you lift up, breathing in as you come back down. And we're going to do a couple more repetitions there. I always lose count of reps when I'm talking, so sorry if you're going to end up doing a few more. And then let it go, have a little bit of a rest there. Okay, if you want to, you can relax down for a moment. We're going to go up into that next layer if you want to. You don't have to, you can keep going with the last one that we did, but if we can manage it, we're going to go for a lift up and forwards, holding that there, and then from there we're going to lift that top leg, and again we can just hold the hover, but if you're able to, bring that knee up, straighten that leg, point those toes, bring that knee up, and moving at the hip and the knee, obviously. Try not to move in the back as this knee comes up. We should be maintaining that neutral curve even as that knee comes up towards you, okay? We need to keep that waist up all the time. Breathing out as it goes away, breathing in as it comes back up, and that neck stays long. Shoulder blades set down. Keep that going. We're going to do a couple more repetitions there. Let's do one more. Last one. Don't collapse, control it down, legs together, down and back. Good, well done. Have a bit of a rest there. Now, we're going to move into the shoulder bridge exercises. There's loads of variations of this one, and I use them in all sorts of different ways, depending on what we're trying to achieve. But I'm going to run through 3 layers, from basic to intermediate, and then a little bit of variation in between. So, we start head supported on your towel, knees bent, heels closer to your bum. We don't have to be all the way up, but not too far away. We're going to be thinking about keeping the chin tucked in toward the throat, shoulder blades gently set down and back. Tilt that pelvis a few times to find that neutral position to start. Hands are going to start off rested on the floor. And all we're going to do is start off by tilting the tailbone up towards the ceiling, flattening the back into the lower back into the floor. And then start to peel one vertebra at a time away from the floor. Try not to press your head into the floor as we do this. We only go halfway up the back, not too high. Shoulder blades are in place. Bra strap stays on the floor for you ladies. You don't go too high and start to lift the chest, because then we're starting to use muscles higher at the back. Keep the chest rested down, and then we slowly lower one vertebra at a time back onto the floor. Repeat that movement over again. Breathing out slowly as we take this one up. Breathing in slowly as we bring this one back down. Pay attention to what happens to the neck and the chin. When these get harder, we start to cheat with the neck. We lift the chin and we dig the back of the head into the floor. Try not to let that happen. So this is our level 1, nice and easy, nice and basic. If you like that one and you want to stick with it, do so. It's a nice one to do, and I want you to think about as you lower down, you really let go of those buttocks, really relax into the floor, feel your bum pull into the floor afterwards before you start to tilt that tailbone upwards. Note that I have not mentioned the word squeeze or clench. We're not doing any of that in this. We're just letting it go as it comes down, letting the movement engage the muscles on the way back up. Okay, if that's all going well, we're going to make it a little bit harder. Okay, we're going to go to the next level. We're going to be lifting one foot off the floor once we're in the bridge. So bring yourself up into the bridge. Now this is where we've got to be focused on what happens at the pelvis. We're not going to allow the pelvis to seesaw from side to side here. It needs to stay nice and still as you peel the weight off one heel and then lift that leg. The temptation is for the pelvis to drop on the side that you've lifted. You're not going to allow that to happen if possible. Foot goes back onto the floor, back out of the bridge, roll it back down. Still take that time to roll down and relax. Bring it back up. We're going to do the opposite side. You may find you're pretty good on one side, but not so good on the other. And that's quite normal. And all we're going to do for you, if that's the case, is stick to this level. We're not going to make it any harder if you're struggling at this point. If you're getting a bit of cramp in the hamstrings, bring the heels a little bit closer towards your bum. Breathing out as we straighten that leg. Breathing in as we come back down. What's happening with that neck now? Are you starting to press in with that head anymore? Are you lifting your chin? Can you keep that chin tucked and relaxed? Good work. Now if you feel like this is your level, keep that going. I'm going to show you a slight variation to make it harder. We're going to hold that position, and now we're going to lower just on the one leg, and then that foot goes back down. So if you didn't quite catch that, I'll do it on the other side. I'm going to do the same as before. Hold my position, keep that pelvis still, straighten one leg, and now roll back out of the bridge, just controlling it with that standing leg. Foot goes down. So it's only a shade harder than that last level, but it just requires a little bit more control from your spine and your buttocks. Still using both feet to get back up into the bridge. Okay, now if you're doing really well, we're going to add another layer, but let's have a little bit of a rest. We're going to have a bit of a stretch. We're going to take hold of one knee. You're going to straighten out the other knee. And if you can, just hug that knee in toward your chest a little, taking care not to flatten the back into the floor. Whilst you're there, push that knee back into the hand. So I'm having a bit of an arm wrestle with my knee. Just push for 10 seconds. Push, push, push. And then we're going to relax and see if we can just stretch it back in that little bit further. Bend this other knee back up. Put that one back down, take hold of the opposite knee, straighten that other one out and push that knee back into that hand. We're going to just hold that pressure for about 10 seconds. So if we engage that muscle first before we stretch it, it just goes a little bit further, relaxes off a little bit more. So now we're going to gently let go of that push, nice and relaxed, and now pull it in for a little bit of a stretch, taking care not to flatten that lower back into the floor. Okay, I've got one last level of this shoulder bridge for you, taking care that this should only be done if you can control it without any of that rotation happening. If you can't control it, go back to one of those previous levels. So from here, I am going to lift one leg to begin with. Hands can either stay on the pelvis or for more stability put them on the floor, and then we're going to lift up and down with one leg. Lift up and down with one leg, and we're going to stick to one leg for the moment, the same leg. I want you to think about the bridges before. Tilt the tailbone up and peel one vertebra at a time away from the floor. lower the spine back into the floor on the way back down. So you're taking the same care and attention of that spinal movement as you were at the very earliest levels. Okay, and we're going to do one more repetition. Because it's a harder level, we're going to do a couple less reps, and then we're going to switch sides. Okay, foot back down, opposite side goes up, tailbone goes up, lift that pelvis, not too high, roll it back down. Lift that pelvis, not too high, roll the spine back down, and of course, breathing continues. Breathing out as we go up, breathing in as we come back down. And we're going to do 2 or 3 more repetitions just to finish off. Last couple of reps. Okay. Well done. Okay, now we're going to return to standing. We're going to have a turn onto our side. Gently back up onto our hands and knees. We're going to have a little bit of a stretch backwards. And then we're going to come back up onto hands and knees. We're going to have a step into a crouch position. We're going to return to standing, pushing the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Gently stretching. Slowly returning our way to standing. All the way back up into standing. And there we go. And just on cue, the dog is in the house. I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Speak to you again later.